BBC, of course, we particularly go after simply because, well, they set the general agenda of the media, and they're the leaders, if you like, but also we have to pay for it.
And of course, the Savile stuff, the BBC protected him for decades, and it was well known, apparently, at the BBC. I mean, I never worked at the BBC, so I didn't know anything about it, because all I got was the output from the BBC, which, of course, didn't come out and say, hey, by the way, one of our most famous presenters... Actually, weirdly, they didn't do that segment.
The BBC did not challenge that. They obviously had a narrative, in my view, that they wanted to spin, and then they were found with egg on their face. Now, when it emerged that these two brothers had been sentenced, we got wind of this story. I broke it, ran it, we put it out there, and it went absolutely massive. And it was only after we'd contacted the BBC for a right of reply to why they had essentially done a PR job for a Syrian gang that they then put a story on their news site about it.
And this is the problem, is we're banging up and we're banging up all the wrong people because our country hates working class people who are railing against the British establishment, but you can be a nonce in the system and get away with it.
If you've been following my videos for some time, you would know I have a deep interest in highlighting the ridiculous existence of an archaic 1950s style taxation masquerading as a license fee. Now, the argument up until this moment from people who support it, some of whom come into my comment section, is that A, it's necessary, B, it's impartial, C, it only affects people who watch live TV, and D, it's just a fee, you should pay it.
No.
Like a good little proletarian, do as you're told, you will own nothing and be happy type of mentality. The latter argument being something I have heard whenever I bring up inheritance tax as well, but that's another issue.
It's stupid! It's stupid!
But out of those four positions, namely it only affects people who watch it live, well, that may not be the case for much longer. UK ways making Netflix users pay license fee to fund BBC.
I'm sorry, what?
Now there is a lot to unpack in this article, an article written by people who work for the not at all corrupt and evil site Bloomberg. Make of that what you will.
I have done nothing wrong, ever, in my life.
I know this.
The UK is considering making households who only use streaming services such as Netflix and Disney pay the BBC license fee as part of plans to modernise the way it funds the public service broadcaster. Extending the fee to streaming applications is on a menu of options being discussed by Prime Minister Keir Starmer's office, the Treasury and the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, according to people familiar with the matter who asked not to be named discussing internal government deliberations. Of course they don't want to be named, of course they don't. Why would they? Why would they want to end up like the snowman? That's the difference between the UK and US right now. Across the pond, their whistleblowers flee because they believe they are saving lives. Ours would have to flee because they said, "My government bad."
Retards.
Alternatives under discussion include allowing the British Broadcasting Corp to use advertising, impose a specific tax on streaming services, and asking those to listen to BBC Radio to pay a fee. You know when something is no longer fit for purpose, when you have to try either forcing or being so deceptive with the masses in order to get more funding for said company. At that point you should just walk away. Walk away with some resemblance of dignity.
Shame. Shame.
The government is in the early stages of examining how to overhaul the funding of Britain's public broadcaster when its current 11-year charter ends on December 31st, 2027. Ministers are either looking to retain and alter the current television license fee model or scrap it and instead fund the BBC through alternative models such as taxation or subscription. That's because viewing habits have changed as users gravitate toward on-demand services. Okay, you'll never hear me say anything positive about these guys, but say what you want about the Tories, and I have much to say about them. At least they had plans to get rid of the license fee altogether in 2027 when the charter ended. But here's the thing, you have literally just said the only options to make this thing no longer a burden on ordinary folk: subscription or cancellation. This isn't hard. But here's the real reason why successive British governments have never gotten rid of the BBC. Bear in mind, they wrote this on Bloomberg. The talks are sensitive because the UK's national broadcaster is often viewed as a key vehicle for the country's soft power around the world. But the BBC, which is committed to maintaining impartiality in its editorial output, also frequently faces criticism of bias from both the left and right of the country's political spectrum. A key vehicle for the country's soft power around the world. So, a propaganda machine. A real propaganda machine. I don't care about where you personally lie on a spectrum. This should cause everyone alarm. Because what direction that soft power goes depends entirely on who's steering the ship at the time. But also, committed to maintaining impartiality. Are you sure? Recent reports state that there is evidence that the BBC exhibits a left-of-centre slant in its online reporting, and that the effects measured may seem trivial at first glance, but they could be indicative of a wider problem in areas of reporting where slant is harder to measure. This bias could mean anything. It could mean talking about something as trivial as repeating the same question until you get a different answer, or going as far as interviewing a lawyer for a now deleted man who I can't name on his platform, who himself was under suspicion at the time. Hell, just as I was making this video, the BBC had to apologise for making light of their own investigation. And this right here, this appearance of bias, has everything to do with why people want the BBC either changed or axed. It's quite simple.
Simple, very, very simple.
Licence fee income for 2023 and 2024 totaled £3.66 billion, little more than the £3.51 billion raised in 2010-2011, according to government data. While expanding the fee to cover streaming services would address the shift from linear viewing to video on demand, it also risks a backlash from consumers, that should be customers, who already pay subscriptions for the same services. Forcing streaming service users to cough up the licence fee would truly be one of the most bonkers ideas ever conceived, said John O'Connell, Chief Executive of the Taxpayers Alliance, a pressure group that campaigns for lower taxes. Far from modernising the BBC's funding system, it would only further entrench the already archaic nature of the hated BBC tax. There really are only two options on the cards at the end of the day. I've already said it earlier and in other videos, and I will say it again until I'm blue in the face. Cancellation or subscription. No forms of taxation. I say a form because morons in my comment section will often come in, say the licence fee is not a tax. Well, let me open your minds a little. If a fee is mandatory and has potential criminal prosecution consequences, it's a form of tax. End of discussion.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
People often ask me why I'm so set against all things government. Yes, that's right, there are people out there who actually question why I don't support government things or government institutions. Well, I'll tell you what. When the elites stop looking after their own chums who mess up and then end up getting cushy jobs, I'll stop being so mad about it. Deal?
Your terms are acceptable.
That there, by the way, is just one example of why I don't like any form of government, but hey-ho. I will always maintain that in principle taxation is theft, just pure theft. There are certain things in life that need to be paid for, of course, so I begrudgingly accept this, but a fee for television? How can anyone justify this in the modern world? Choice being the key word of our modern times when it comes to entertainment. Anyway, that's my rant for the day done. More rants are sure to follow. Please like, comment and subscribe. If you didn't know already, I currently am offering memberships from as little as 99p a month. For 99p, you get to see videos like this up to 24 hours in advance of the rest of YouTube. Or if you prefer, for $2.99, I will be doing exclusive reaction and commentary member-only videos for upcoming TV shows over the next year, which will include Reacher Series 3, Clarkson's Farm and Stranger Things. Plus, there will be other shows that pop up throughout the year that I may or may not do depending on what members would like. Anyway, thank you all for watching, do take care, and as always, God bless.